Welcome to Vermont Artists and Authors, where we interview great storytellers and artists from the amazing Green Mountain State. I'm your host, Barney Smith of StoryComic.com. We are honored to have with us the international disability rights advocate, educator, researcher, and author, Sefakor Komabu-Pomeyie. Did it? Was that was close?
Yeah, you just did it. You got it.
It's great. So, before the show, we were talking about you're from Ghana, my wife is from Nigeria. We were determining who had the better jollof rice, and that there will never be an answer to that. So, just for all of our listeners to know that Ghana and Nigeria always debate who has the better jollof rice. So, yeah.
And maybe our audience should come for that test, and they will testify. And just bring the tie for us, because this has been there for a long time. So we will invite them to come and taste Ghanaian jollof and Nigerian jollof and tell the world the best one. And then we'll fight. Yeah, we stop fighting over that.
Right. Sefakor, you just recently published a book called I'm Able through you did that through Onion River Press. Talk to us a little bit about this book. What was your inspiration behind it?
Thank you so much, Brian. Yeah, I'm Able, A Woman's Advice to Disability Change Agents. It's a book that has come to stay, especially to change the negative narratives about people with disabilities. And when I say people with disabilities, both visible and invisible disabilities. So I would say that I have traveled a little bit. I know when we started, you were telling me how you also went around the world on the land of Africa. And yeah, so as much as I travel from Africa to Europe, I schooled in Denmark before, which is a Scandinavian country, and also here in the US. I just see that the negative narratives that revolve around disability, the word disability, is not different from any of these continents. And that was one reason why I really took it upon myself to share my story, because I realized that our stories are the same, they are similar, and as much as stigma is concerned, as much as exclusion is concerned, as much as any stereotypes that you can think about when you hear that taboo word, disability, it rings that you don't want to belong to that group. They are not productive. They are always evil, and that negative vibe around that. I saw it clearly from any of these places that I stepped my feet on, and that is the reason why at some point I was very much intentional to just bring out some of the realities on the ground of a person with disability. Again, not physically, because I am a person with physical disability in my wheelchair. So the invisible disabilities especially can connect to my story. Anybody like you, Barney, after this discussion, you realize that this is the book that everybody should be reading, should be really diving deep into, should be learning from, because as I was writing this book, I was looking at so many things behind the scene as a researcher, as an educator in the classroom with students every single day, as a policy analyst, and as an advocate, right? Those are some of the lenses I bring on board when I was writing this book, always thinking about what can be an actionable gift I have to give to that society or that person that will read this book alone in their bedrooms, and then they can start making the change for anybody that they connect to, or for themselves, especially when they come to that self-realization that the word disability is not negative and it is not for any specific people. That is the point that I look at it from, and that actually was my motivation when I was writing this book.
So would you say this book, is it a memoir or is it a handbook, or how would you describe the genre of this book?
Yeah, it's a memoir. As much as it's a memoir, I think I brought a little bit of techniques, or my methodology of writing this memoir is different. Just because this is a memoir of every chapter having questions for you to decode yourself, and also to dismantle disability, as much as any any other topic is concerned, as you connect it to disability. So for me, it's my story. It's our story. So it's a memoir, but you will see questions at every chapter, which I was very intentional about. That it is not just a storyline that you read and say this book is great. No, I actually assigned the reader to be critical, and also assign the reader to visit my places that I visited or I was, and also assign that reader to be in our shoes in terms of disability. So it's a memoir, but taking that step of making a change. That is why it is about disability change agents. So when people ask me at times, is it for kids or adults or for students, or that it's
Mm.
for everybody. I was very, as I said, I was very intentional when I was writing this. My I have a team of working with, because I speak five languages, right? International languages, two, French and English, and my Ghanaian national language, three. So I was very much aware of understanding of certain things, but the reality is it's about disability. So, but I want to be sure that when you are reading this in English, or you are reading this in Spanish, you are reading this in French, what is your action? What is that point of action for you to start uh, asking so many questions and see how you can solve the problem, or you can change what it is then to make it very simple for anybody close to you. So it's a memoir, but it has questions to tackle. And I think that is a teacher part of me, that you can't just read a book and say this book is great, or just know the storyline. But that's maybe the advocacy part of me also. If you are not going to be the change maker, you can take the story far away to maybe the places that you have to make that change, or somebody has to make the change with you.
What would you say is, as you mentioned, is for any ages, but would you say like a social worker would get just as much out of this as say like an architect would get out of this, or how would that work?
As much as this book is concerned, it's all focusing on change, as I said.
Right.
One thing that Judy Human, I don't know whether you know Judy Human, she said, when other people see you as a third class citizen, the first thing you need is a belief in yourself and the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge that you have rights. The next thing you need is a group of friends to fight back with. That's quote from Judy has been something that I work with strongly when I was writing this book, because we have seen as was second class citizen. As much as my storyline is concerned, I am evil, supposed to be evil, supposed to be a useless being, or to be even what, an outcast, right, from whatever belief system that I'm coming from. And here am I with Judy Human, who is also well recognized an international disability rights advocate, also saying the same thing. And for me, that friend or those friends that we need to rely on to fight back with us are everybody. So whether you are a professional, a doctor, an engineer, a technician, an educator, a policy analyst, a law. I mean, anybody at all. Why? Because disability is a pivot that we are all revolving around. So we are not saying that this book is for only uh, classroom people. Initially, that was what people really thought because I'm in the classroom. It's not. The good thing now is I can see this book going far away with what social workers, with caregivers, with what carpenters. Yes, a group of people doing whatever book clubs because they are parents of different employment backgrounds. I
Right.
see group of people like CVOU. This is a group working with other cultures, but this is an office. They are studying this book to really connect to the realities of our sufferings, how systems have been laid down, how structures have been laid down, how policies have been there to eliminate people with disability or to exclude them intentionally or consciously or unconsciously, right? So that is why it's for me, it's a clarion call for everybody to be
Mm.
able to have a storyline, any chapter that anybody can open that book to. If you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you finish, will make you think differently, will let you sink in your chair and just have that reflective moment of how do I do this best? Oh, that aha moment that I never knew this is the real situation. So that is why I started from my childhood, right? I started from the hospital, like the medical system there. There are so many things that we have or we deal with when you are a person with disability or not. I tackle issues in the classroom, right? That is education right there. I tackle issues with employment, yes. Yeah, so it's cut across. So as a whole being, living your life just to be that, living your life with dignity, right? And just to be that self-reliance and also be productive and be able to add to the community, or in other words, to be a taxpayer, live that self, I mean,
Right.
independence, right? That part of it, it's a package. So, and everybody plays a role in that person's life. So for me, when we are talking about change, we are not narrowing our scope to only one group of people, that it's for only students or it's for only parents. The issue we are tackling, it's a whole wide world issue. The stigma across everywhere, that when you take this book and you read it through from the beginning to the end, as a parent, you will be able to take good care of your child with disability. That
Mm.
is another piece. And as you know, every child works differently. So if we are even saying that it's for caregivers or parents, well, that parent can be a nurse, that parent can be an electrician, that parent can be a shoemaker, that parent can be anybody at all working somewhere. But the issue is, how inclusive are we as human beings, naturally or unconsciously, when you are around the table of discussion, and then we are planning, like Barney right now, you are planning some program to do. If there is nobody around that table of discussion who is significantly doing anything about disability, automatically everybody should be disability inclined to be saying like, oh, how about budget for these people? How about budget for this and that, so that disability will be included in that budget from the beginning. So that is why this book is widely spread. I know when we had those type of discussion about which direction should we limit to, with my editor, I'm like, I can't, because I have
Mm.
passed through a lot of channels, a lot of systems, breaking down barriers, transportation, right? That's another one that I dealt with myself. And all those things, I know that it's a story of all of us. And that is why we have to break it down as much as possible with everybody on board with us. So that when you are making the change, because the target for me is make the change in a very small way, in your small way of what? Talking about it, even from your home. It starts from the home. We say in our language, charity begins at home. You cannot
Mhm.
give something to people that you don't have. So if you want to really make the change, it must start from you, from the home, about how you want to do it before you go out. Yeah, so it is not for only one group of people.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. My question to you then, Dr. Sefakor, is Where do you see the future of disability advocacy?
Oh, that's a good one. The future of disability advocacy is really bright. It's bright. I'm really hopeful because how far we have come. It's a long journey.
Mm,
We have, yeah, it's been a long journey. We have fought good fights, and there are more fights to be fought. But I have seen a very clear picture of um, people working freely to make the change that we want, especially the youth. Why? Yeah, I have hopes in the youth just because um, we are talking about these things now openly. Unlike my time when I was growing up, who are you to really talk about disability openly and even find a way to make the changes that we are making right now? So that is why when I'm talking about advocacy, I always connect to the roots or the legends who have fought for us in disability rights movement, and then learn from their toils and also build on that,
mm,
and in the classroom situation, for instance, I always see the youth coming out boldly to, I mean, pave their own ways to talk about how they are making the changes. Because at the end of the day, for instance, I have this uh, in my global disability studies class, which is a big class or an open course for everyone wherever you belong to, because it is online and synchronous. That course, you can take the course whether you are in Australia, Turkey, Kenya, So that is a place that I am so hopeful that I hear those voices coming from all angles in the same room, tackling disability issues in their home countries, how they
mm,
are doing it. So I have a bigger project. We call it the legacy project, or the legacy work that you have to leave with your school, with your home, with your company, wherever you are, because it is more or less, it's not only for graduates, it's open as a professional development course that people take anywhere, any level that they are. So you can see leaders, you can see the youth who are coming up, you can see people who are really the advocates or people with disabilities themselves. You can see the people working with them coming together in that class, global disability studies platform, and then brainstorming together and then narrating what they all have. That is the fun part of it for me. That when we talk about some of the type of disabilities, for instance, in Africa, a typical American doesn't know about it, that it is a disability. For instance, when I'm talking about um, albinism, for instance, it is merely a type of disability which is stigmatized in Africa. When you come to the US system, nobody knows that about, like, knows about albinism being a disability. No, I mean, that is the point, that when we bring all together, as it is a global issue, it's a global stigma we all have. The hope is we are no more tackling this in pieces. For me personally, I am doing this with the youth, and I see the value of it. I see the productivity of it. I see the marks that they are making on the ground. So in this project, when you are going to make the mark or the change that you start from day one, that actually brought you to the class, the change that you want to make, you definitely make it and invite us, because it's online and synchronous. I create that pathway for them from day one. You start, I mean, paving your own road, how it is. You identify the major stakeholders, the target audience, the policymakers who are supposed to make that for you. In some cases, some student or some of these people, they just want to write a policy brief or something small for direction, to make a pamphlet, to start a conversation. In some organizations, they have done those type of training, like DEI trainings, and then they have touched base on a little of these pieces, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then they pack all of them. But here, like the case, we are talking about disability, which
mm.
is the pivot of all. Whether you are black, white, rich, poor, whatever category you find yourself, you come back to disability if you live long, right? So
Right.
we call it the open-ended class that you are joining whether you like it or not. Yes, so I see a very vibrant future, because for me, this course is where I connect with them. as much as I sleep, I am always dreaming about new things coming out from my class because I will see new faces every single day, every summer. Like this course is going on right now in UVM, like every summer it's online, So that is the place that I pick it up from, and I'm like, oh, this is really happening. And as
Hmm.
much as they design their own legacy profiles, they make sure that they do the action. They take the action. How are you doing this? Is it through campaign on the street? Is it through your office, educating them, doing workshop for them, educating them what it is that you are learning? Is it through connecting with the people directly to make them act on what you are expecting them to do? Is it practical? Like you write something down, maybe in some cases, some people don't know where to start from. So it depends upon the culture and the values that people are holding on to, and all the policies that they have or they don't have, and the resources available. So I have hope, high hopes. I have to be very frank with you in the near future, especially if I connect strongly with the US system. Almost every policy is there. We are now trying to tweak some. Those are not favorable, as we are growing, changing policy or writing new forming new policies are not new things. The same thing applies to Africa. We are following, let's say you have ADA here, and Africa, we are dealing with disability laws differently. For instance, in Ghana, we have what we call Act 715. And that is definitely connecting to the UNCRPD, or the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, which is the universal tool that we are all looking up to make it work for everyone. That's another point that I have to add, that US hasn't yet ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disability, but we are hoping that US will join and add uh, his voice and the leadership roles that it plays in policies and making impact in the world to the people with disabilities also. Because the universal tool, which is the UNCRPD, we haven't ratified it. So that is where we have a little bit of tweak there, that US has to be more proactive in that angle. But in all, personally, I have seen changes and I am hopeful.
So, Dr. Sefakor, what's next for you now?
That's a good one. I think the next thing that I'm doing is like this. This book is very well known in Vermont, but not across the world. As much as I'm working globally with students, I want to see the change practically happening. And I really want this book to promoting it in diverse ways. And this is one platform that I'm so grateful for. Making sure that it goes viral, that people know about it, and then puts the words or the questions asked into action, because every question is demanding you to think and reflect deeply if you really need to be picturing disability, or if you need to be having the fear of the unknown anymore. That is one thing that I'm working on. And maybe in my second book coming up, I'm actually jotting down some points. I just need to know the timing, because the timing I had to write this was very much uh, the great time for me, because I never had time. I wanted to write this book long time. Yeah. And COVID struck, and that was the biggest time, the biggest puzzle for me personally.
And if people want to learn more about you, Dr. Sefakor, do you have, where is the best place people could go to find you?
Yeah, so I just have, I don't know how, maybe I can share that with you. So I have my website.
Okay.
I'm able, if you can Google that, I'm able sefakor.com.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. Is there any, hey, did I say .com? I'm able sefakor.wordpress.com. So as you can see, I
Excellent.
have an artist program coming up soon in Outreach on the 17th next month in Outreach Vermont Library.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, people can meet me there. I can sign some books for them there. And I can answer so many questions because I tackle different topics as a woman, as a person of color. As much as this book is concerned, I tackle issues of intersectionality. So, yeah, I'll be very much ready to um, answer any question for people who would like to explore around disability.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sefakor, and I look forward to chatting again with you and with you when you come out with your sequel book. See, when you get out with a new book. See.
Thank you so much, too. I really enjoyed talking with you. And I want to especially thank you and your family, your wife, especially, that she's doing a great job of giving you the good, the nutritious food, especially if you're able to eat a bar and spinach. You don't need
Yeah.
anything again in the world.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much, darling.